Yes, over here.
Would you start rewriting Dykes on the chalkboard?
Everywhere I go, somebody asks me that, and I have to say no, and I feel really bad. I was very passionate about doing that for a very long time. It felt like necessary. I felt like I wanted to see people like me reflected in the world. That was a big motivation for me doing it, and I guess I just don't feel that same urgency anymore. I mean, stuff has changed so much. Look what just happened with Obama. I mean, I never thought I would to see this kind of transformation. But that's what drove my work for a long time. I'm happy about. I feel like now I get to do other stuff. I feel like I have to follow what my interest and my passion is, and right now it's about figuring out my family. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you. Yes.
Has your publisher pegged you for a third book yet?
I haven't written a proposal for a third book yet because I haven't had any like a spare second. But I do want to write another family memoir. I have to tell my family that. I'm going around talking in public about it, and honestly, I haven't told them this. Well, I've sort of told them, but I don't think they really believe me. But I'm interested in families and what makes a family work or not work. And this book about my mother is just about my mother. The book about my father is just about him. Like to try to keep all the other people out, just because that would be a very complicated story. But I think maybe now I can tell a very complicated story. Yes, Nick.
I feel like you have a sort of a trademark of hyper-realism and documentation in your art. And I'm just wondering, were you always that interested in realism, in photographic exactness?
No, that's a really good question. He's asking if I have always been. My work is very realistic, and I'm obsessed with archival exactitude. And was I always like that in my work? And I wasn't. I mean, I sort of was. I considered Dykes to Watch Out For a kind of archive. Like over the years, I got increasingly interested in capturing little details of everyday life, like T-shirts, slogans, and haircuts, and all that stuff, and getting it right. But it got more intense over time, and then the internet and digital photography really changed it for me, because I could find exactly what a 1958 Oldsmobile looked like if I wanted to, like in a second. Wouldn't have to go to the library and to the picture file, or the crazy things we used to have to do to find images. So technology has had a big impact on how I work. Yes.
How was your transition in your process to technology? I mean, I don't know when you made the transition from just editing to this Photoshop process.
When did I make this transition to the more Photoshop stuff? I don't know, kind of probably around 2000. It was when I was still doing Dykes to Watch Out For and starting to work on Fun Home. I started using the computer a lot more, and got my first scanner and all that stuff. It just gradually, as the stuff evolved, I started adopting it. Yes.
What are your thoughts about your own sense of privacy and vulnerability and putting your story out there?
That's a very good question. What are my thoughts about my own sense of privacy and vulnerability, telling these really intimate stories? I've been kind of a nervous wreck for the past couple of months, anticipating this book coming out. What was I thinking? It's really personal. And so is Fun Home, but this feels even more so. And I feel like I have this weird thing. I'm a shy person, I'm an introvert. I would rather be alone than anything else. But here I am standing in front of you, and I don't mind standing in front of you and telling you all these intimate things or writing books about it. It's a weird split. I have boundary issues, I guess. But you know, I think it's very much about the kind of family I was raised in. Like if I was raised in a family that was all like affectionate and functional, I probably would have, you know, a law degree or something. Yes, way over there. My comic influences, Mad Magazine was probably the biggest. I had a subscription to Mad when I was a kid. My mother didn't like that, but my dad got it for me. Edward Gorey. I was lucky enough to have some children's books that he illustrated when I was growing up, and then I discovered his adult stuff when I got older. Norman Rockwell. Hergé, the Tintin guy. I love his stuff. Those are some of them. Oh, R. Crumb and Aileen Kaminsky. Crumb, especially their collaborations together. And Harvey Pekar. People who did that gritty autobiographical, the underground autobiographical comics in the 70s and 80s. Yes?
Why the two colors? Or three colors? White, black, and gray, and red, so four, I guess.
It's just two colors in each book. The book about my dad is green and black, and the book about my mom is red and black. But it looks like more colors because of how they mix together.
But why just those? Why such a limited palette?
Oh my God, because I don't know how anyone does full color. I really don't. It's so much work, so much detail. And it's hard to do really well. Like not many people are good at it. Chris Ware is some kind of superhuman. But it's all I can do to manage one color. Just keeping track of each little area of color in each panel on each page is like, it just takes up all my memory space. I don't know, maybe I'll do a full color comic next time. Yes, in the stripes.
So something I've noticed about your work is that, like, its tone, in a way that Dykes to Watch Out For wasn't, even though that had like a really strong background of politics and social history. I'm curious if that's just been a natural progression for you, or if that's been in any way intentional.
She's saying that my work seems to be getting increasingly academic in tone, from Dykes to Watch Out For through Fun Home to this current book. I wouldn't say I intended that. I guess it's just the stuff I'm interested in. That's all I have to say about that. Yes.
Do you have any writings that you never published?
Do I have any writings that I never published? Well, I have like a whole version of this book about my mother that I had to throw out, if you count that. Earlier stuff. No, I never really. No, I mean all my effort in my youth went into Dykes to Watch Out For, and it was like I had these constant deadlines, had to churn stuff out and publish it. So didn't really write any secret novels. Yes.
In Dykes to Watch Out For, you were pretty much writing a linear story, and then Fun Home was more an iterative kind of story. I haven't read this one yet, but it sounds like
It's even crazier.
like that mirror thing.
Yeah.
How does the structure of those stories help you and hinder in telling your story?
She's asking about the structure of my stories. In Dykes to Watch Out For, they were pretty straightforward, linear, chronological storytelling. In Fun Home, and especially in this new book, it is, what did you say, iterative? That's a good word. It's not a straightforward chronological story. When I was writing about my dad and the circumstances surrounding his death, I realized that it wasn't really the story that I wanted to tell, it was my ideas about the story. And so that meant I had like different ideas about the same event. So I ended up having to structure the book thematically, like to build it around these ideas rather than along a chronological arc. So the chronology got all broken up. And the same is true in the book about my mom, but more so. It's a little more crazy. Yes?
After writing a book about your mom and your dad, how has that changed you as a person or your thoughts about you or your family?
How has it changed me writing these memoirs about my mother and my father? I feel like it has changed me. I feel like each of these books has been a kind of transformation that I've put myself through. And I know you can't really will yourself to undergo a transformation, but my decision to tell this family story about my dad and then talk to my mother about it was like really a big kind of breakthrough. It was like a confrontation. It shook up the dynamics in our family, and I feel like I grew because of that. Not just personally and psychically, but also as an artist. And I feel like something like that happened with this book about my mother, but I feel like I'm sort of still all in the middle of that, so I don't really have perspective on it. All right, one more. Yes?
With Mother's Day and the promoting of the idea of a mother that's really idealistic and awesome and may not exist in human form, probably it's a little hard for me, so I just wanted to say thank you for this book and thank you for this book now.
Thank you.